This is actually insane. Rivals is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We need to take a look at this, and there's just so much going on in this game. But the first thing we really need to address is this. Now, there's been a lot of this being thrown around all over the internet. Oh, look, the difference is insane. Look what you get with Marvel Rivals compared to Overwatch 2. Look at the Battle Pass comparisons. Oh my lord, it's so terrible. Look at what Overwatch is doing. This isn't entirely accurate. This is actually straight up bait and people throwing out a lot of misinformation. Typically on platforms like X, you see this just proliferated everywhere. You do see bits of it on Reddit as well, but this is just completely inaccurate. For a start, this image is comparing all of the skins in the Rivals Battle Pass with some of the skins in the Overwatch Battle Pass. Now, obviously, I'm sure people will say, well, actually, that's the official marketing material of the pass. And yeah, it is for Overwatch. And yeah, they're putting the legendary skins on show. I believe some of the skins there as well are from the premium Battle Pass, which obviously you can buy from Overwatch. I mean, the premium, whatever the hell it's called. You know, you get the Battle Pass and you can buy the additional Battle Pass thingy where you get the 20 level skips. You get a bunch of those skins for free. So that's fine, right? That's cool. But there is one thing people are not really recognizing here. The monetization in these games is essentially identical. Now, there is some differences, and I'm going to touch on them briefly in this video, but I think the first difference you need to be very aware of, and this is fact, and I know there's going to be some rival players out there going, oh, how can you say these things? The Overwatch Battle Pass, the free Battle Pass, is infinitely better in terms of rewards than the Rivals one. It is just straight up better. In fact, the Overwatch Battle Pass will give you 600 Overwatch coins. That's actually really good. Now, everything like that in Rivals is locked behind the Luxury Battle Pass, and then obviously you've got the conversion between lattice and units and all of that going on. Now, in terms of the Premium Battle Pass, so what you're paying $10 for, again, all of this can be subjective. Look at the Rivals one. It's got a ton of content, 10 skins. Now, what I'm going to say here is the Rivals one is double the size of a standard season. The devs have said this, so get ready for the next season to not have as many skins and additional rewards and all of that, because this is a big season. But I don't think it's fair when we're seeing all of this direct comparison where people are just basically cherry-picking whatever they want to use Overwatch and just basically slander and slam Overwatch and go, well, this one's just better and that's better. There are elements which are better for each one. I do believe this Battle Pass is quite good, or at least the first Battle Pass was quite good. It was $5. I think that was pretty fair. It was half the size of a normal Battle Pass. This Battle Pass we've got now is a big Battle Pass, but as I've said, this season contains double the content of a normal season. Now, if that means the Battle Pass itself won't have a ton of content in the next season compared to what it's got now, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe that's the devs referencing things like the number of hero launches. We know we're going to get 4 in this season. Maybe it's only going to be 2 in a standard season. But I just wanted to throw this out there because it is not accurate. There's a lot of people out there who are just ragging on Overwatch. Overwatch is down in the doldrums. There is no debate on that right now. Everybody is sort of, it feels like abandoned Overwatch. I mean, that's not entirely true. Overwatch has still got a player base, and it always will have a player base. And it's got its own niche. But I think Rivals has pretty much shown that, yeah, the hero shooter genre is a big genre. There just wasn't any games out there servicing it. And Rivals, well, Rivals is definitely servicing that. But I just wanted to say a quick piece on that, guys, because the monetization, for whatever way you look at it, it is expensive in Rivals. It is the same in Overwatch. It is expensive. Individual skins are expensive. Battle passes, I mean, there are obviously pros and cons, right? So the Battle Pass in Rivals, you can buy and then you can complete whenever you like, which is great. Overwatch obviously doesn't have that functionality. Maybe they'll get that in the future, and if they do, it'll be a direct result, most likely, of the fact that Rivals has got it. So they want to keep, give you a bit more value as a player, which again is positive, and why I've always said things like it's good that there is a direct competitor, but it's got to be said, guys. This game is not some sort of awesomely monetized game, and you're getting like character skins on the cheap and things like that. You're not. It is still the same tried and tested, expensive whale monetization system. You want to buy the skins, then buy the skins. That's just the way of it. I've bought the Battle Pass for this season because I think there's a lot of value in that Battle Pass for me personally. A lot of the heroes with skins are the heroes that I like, and so I'm going to go for it, right? That's just it. So there you go. So take a look at this. This is actually mind-boggling. 644,269 is the player peak from last night in Marvel Rivals. That is frigging crazy. Now remember, the previous peak was 480,000. I mean, they've literally almost put on another 200,000 players. That is bonkers. That shows you that this game has got traction beyond belief. You can look at other games out there that have come out recently. Look at Helldivers 2. Yeah, that rocketed up to 400,000 plus players, but then it very steadily declined over time. Even with great updates, it's kind of settled around about 80,000 concurrent players, which is insanely high. Don't get me wrong, guys. Fantastic achievement. Absolutely incredible. But Rivals showing us that, oh, wait a minute, we're just going to add 200,000 players, what the hell, because it's a new season, is completely ridiculous. And again, it is showing you that there is this appetite for hero-based shooters, and nobody has really serviced this beyond Overwatch. There's been loads of competition in the past that has just completely fell flat on its face, hasn't garnered an audience for a whole myriad of reasons, but this game is killing it, and I'm not going to go over it again in this video because I've been saying it in a lot of videos, it feels like, but they've just got the holy sort of trinity correct. Gameplay, visual design, and characters. They've just got them all absolutely bang on, and I think that's why everything's working. So where does the game go from here? That's the other question. Well, I mean, it's putting on players. It isn't declining in size. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, it's going to be over to the devs to see if they can maintain the content cadence they've got at the moment, see if they can keep delivering updates that the community want. The most recent patch notes, I think, have been received really well, but it only takes one update to kind of make the community go quite negative and players to think, oh, the game's in a terrible mess. We're not seeing that at the moment anyway from the devs, and they haven't made any major mistakes. So again, you know, we'll have to wait and see what happens on that kind of front with the game. But I feel like at the moment they're doing really well. They've had some great updates. They've got a great foundation of a game, and then they can just start building upon that and going forward. So I mean, this number could just go higher, and I kind of expect it to go higher because we are going into the weekend as well now. So who knows what this will hit? Maybe we'll get 700 to 800,000. Just insane numbers. This is also an insane number to behold. The game has generated $130+ million in its first month of operation. Now, obviously, this is down to skins, and I'm sure certain skins for certain heroes are selling absolutely incredible amounts for obvious reasons. And again, you've got all of the monetization things, which you guys know, if you've watched my videos over the last couple of years, you know I'm not the biggest fan of this free-to-play monetization because it's quite predatory. It pushes stuff onto whales. It uses things like FOMO, all of this stuff. So we could just talk about that forever and a day. But in terms of raw revenue generation, the game has made $130 million across all of its platforms. I believe it's made somewhere in the region of about $54 million alone on Steam. So this got me thinking, right? Because again, we're seeing a lot of direct comparisons back to Overwatch. People going, well, Overwatch is only made. Well, we can take a look at how much Overwatch has made. So when Overwatch launched, this guy who was the vice president and head of global marketing for Overwatch, who now doesn't work at Activision Blizzard, and basically updated his LinkedIn and went, oh, yeah, we made $225 million in 2022. So that was the launch of Overwatch. That's how much it made, Overwatch 2 that is, in 2022. So if that was the entire year you're looking at for revenue, then Rivals is like really trending above that. But here's why I don't think this is necessarily a fair comparison. Because Overwatch itself, if we take a look at this, which is taken from one of the Activision earnings reports back in 2017, for Q1 of 2017, it actually tells you that Overwatch has generated over $1 billion in its first year. Now, this was Overwatch 1. It was a different time. You had to buy the box, pay to play, and then it had loot boxes in the game as well. So it had that additional layer of monetization, which generated another $1 billion in the next year through that. So Overwatch itself, brand new IP, generates $1 billion in its first year. Massive hit, right? Marvel Rivals comes out, and it's already generated $130 million in its first month. If it continues at that level, and we can see it actually adding players to the overall player base by just simply looking at Steam DB, I mean, it's going to increase, right? Surely it will increase month on month on month. So this potential here that this will hit those heights of 1.2, 1.3 billion that Overwatch actually managed in its first year. But the crucial thing to remember here is this is the launch of this game. And if we compare that to the launch of Overwatch 2, everyone will remember the donkey video. In fact, I even remember reacting to that video because, yeah, I mean, what the hell was that launch of Overwatch 2? It was just the Toronto map with Junker Queen and Sojourn, I think. That was literally on 5v5 and a bunch of balance changes for that. So a lot of people were obviously heavily confused. And again, it was a tried and tested, and at that point, maybe a tired IP where everyone was waiting for the next big thing. And of course, well, we just got Overwatch with additional content, which is basically what Overwatch 2 is. The donkey meme, of course, comes from his video where it's not Overwatch 2, it's Overwatch 1.5, which was accurate. But in some ways, it wasn't even Overwatch 1, it was Overwatch 0.5. Weird stuff going on. So I don't think it's entirely fair to compare Overwatch 2's launch with Rivals' launch. I think it is a little bit fairer to compare the launch of Overwatch, even though that's not a free-to-play game back then, and it did generate money. But what we can sort of learn from this is Rivals is on track to make a ton of money. And this also, again, shows you that the live service genre as a whole, it doesn't matter what type of, well, let's say the live service sector, and it doesn't matter what genre of game you are, as a whole, is not dead. And if you actually produce a game that people want to play, you can still monetize them. Again, I've still got issues with the way monetization is handled in all these free-to-play games. I'm never going to be happy with it. But I think what we're looking at here, again, is that great gameplay, great IP, good character designs, and guess what? That works in the hero shooter world. And I'm sure Blizzard are probably like, what the hell is going on here? We need to react in some way, and we're just losing player base here, and we've got to try and stem that flow. So this is double the content, right? That's the way of looking at this season we've got for Rivals. Double the content, make a big splash. It's clever. They launched the game with a sort of half-finished battle pass in a way. But you've got the whole game, and you've got a massive number of heroes, which is essential for a hero shooter to thrive, to give players different heroes they can play, because they're going to put hours and hours into these heroes, and they find a new main, another main, and then they start playing with like meta comps, different metas, all that stuff, right? And they go for competitive, whatever. And that keeps players engaged. But it's almost like a clever move to just have this mini battle pass and a mini season, and then almost launch again with the full season, which is what it feels has happened now with Season 1 launching, of course, the previous season being Season 0. Now, there are things to be aware of. Like I said, this is a big battle pass. It is a big season. There are more heroes, basically double, the devs are saying, as to what they're going to launch in a standard season. So when we start looking at what the next season could look like, you start coming up with things like this. Maybe they have 3 maps, but probably they'll have 1 or 2 maps added to the game. You might get a game mode, because I think the game mode that's been added this season is more of just a deathmatch warm-up mode. It's not what we were expecting, like a full-blown core game mode, I guess, like the Convoy mode is and the King of the Hill mode. The issue is, though, we're not entirely sure if this means the Battle Pass itself. Like, will the Battle Pass always have 10 pages and 10 skins? Because what they have said is each season lasts for 3 months. Now, that is long. What they're doing in this season is splitting it into 2. So the first half, Invisible Woman and Mr. Fantastic come out. And then, yeah, we've got a Battle Pass, but that Battle Pass will last for the whole season. And then at the midpoint, we're going to get the Thing and the Human Torch added to the game. Now, another thing Rivals does quite well is it progresses the lore in the game. The seasons are tied to in-game lore, which is then also delivered in the game. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen the internal system in the game where you can go through and you can look at the sort of comic book entries and all of that as it progresses, and they unlock every couple of days or whatever, so the story advances. It's really cool, and again, it keeps people engaged in the game. But in terms of, is all this going to happen in the next season? Well, I don't know. Like I said, they've not been completely transparent in terms of, yeah, the next Battle Pass will have 10 skins, and it will have, 10 pages and all of that stuff. It may not, we don't know. But I'm sure, given the length of the seasons being 3 months long, probably battle passes may be always the same size. But again, take that with a pinch of salt, because that's just me, I'm literally pulling that out of my arse, for want of a better word. But it is just down to the duration of the seasons. I think what they're referring to in terms of half the content is the new heroes and the new maps and the new game modes, because there's no way they can keep pumping that quantity out. And I think when we do look at the heroes themselves, they're still beating everybody out there. I mean, Overwatch is the comparison, right? They release a new hero every other season. A season in Overwatch lasts about 9 weeks, which this translates to about 3 heroes a year, which is fine. And again, I'm not saying that if Overwatch was to go, here's 4 heroes next season, that it would suddenly revive Overwatch and people would be like, oh my God, let's all play Overwatch. Because that's not going to happen, is it? That's just not going to happen. That would not be effective. But when we look at the cadence of hero releases that Overwatch have got, and we look at the number of heroes that have come out already for Rivals, and we know what we're getting this season, I mean, in one season, in one 3-month period, we're going to get more heroes than you're going to get all year in 2025 for Overwatch. Now, what this means is when you go forward and you look at the next season is probably another 2 heroes. We know there's a bunch of heroes data mined. Everyone thinks Ultron is coming in the next season. I mean, there is a world where they just release Ultron this season for some insane reason. Who knows, right? Because apparently that hero is quite finished. There's a bunch of other heroes, though, in the game files. I think there's like an additional 10 or 12 heroes. And they've got who knows how far in development they are. But it does actually show you that even though this is going to be half the content of a season that we've got right now in terms of heroes, 2 heroes every 3 months is still an insane amount of heroes compared to their main competitor, which is Overwatch. They are dwarfing them with that amount of content. Does the content matter? This is the other question, right? Do you need tons of content? Now, I like to look at these games, these live service games, as sort of like they ride a tide. They've got these ebbs and flows to them. Well, they ride a wave, I think is a better analogy. And at the moment, obviously, Rivals is riding high on that wave. But in a lot of ways, it's down to the development team and the company behind the game to keep that wave sort of, the size it is, keep pushing it forward. And I think when you look at other games, you look at your Overwatches and you see stuff that they've done in their past, there's been very clear moments where they've stalled the wave. The wave has got smaller and it's much difficult to make that bigger. Now, I feel with Rivals, they've had a great launch. They've had I think the launch in a lot of ways was pretty good for them because it wasn't like incredibly explosive day one. It felt like it was... Well, it was... No, it's not really fair to say that because it was explosive day one because you could see the player base, the wider player base of hero shooter fans were really looking for a new game to get stuck into, and it did deliver that. But I think more so when you look back to the beta phase, which I never even played myself, you could see them kind of building up a player base. People were saying good things about the game, but it needed, performance issues, which it still kind of has to this day. All these things they need sorting out, blah, 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 blah. You get to the launch, and then it feels like over the last month, it's just got stronger and stronger and stronger, and it's been doing all the right things with its communication to the community, with its updates, with the heroes, with the content plans, just with everything. It feels like it's actually been nailing a lot of things. And in some ways, I always like to use this as an example, but the parallax effect of the heroes in the hero gallery, it feels like an evolution of what you got in the Overwatch hero gallery. Now, I know there's a lot of things that have been taken from Overwatch and have just literally been cloned into Rivals. And I suppose the argument becomes, well, if it's done well, then just copy it, right? Which is like, okay, fair enough. At the end of the day, there is a lot of cross-pollination between these games, and Blizzard themselves have been notorious for going out there and taking formats, taking genres, and just reinventing them by, in a lot of cases, using ideas from other genres and shoving them together, taking the best of everything else and kind of making a more polished thing. And this is kind of what's happened to Blizzard with Rivals. But I just think, like, you go forward and you think, right, this season, you feel like you're in, again, this living entity of the game. You're in this world of Rivals where it feels alive, where it's got updates, it's got lore updates, it's got hero updates, dev communication. It's got all of these things going on, and it seems to be building on it. But again, the big test will be, can it keep doing this? Like, what will the game look like in a month, 2 months' time? Are we going to see, like, maybe a bit of fall off because the hype's kind of died down? Or through updates, will the devs be able to keep this going? It is a very interesting, like, point of thought, I think all of this is. All right, guys, I wanted to make this video to just kind of almost wrap together my thoughts on the current state of this game, where the game is going, what we're looking at with the game. And I just think it's crazy. Like, I am playing a ton out of this game. It is my main game. Like, I honestly thought that I'd be playing loads of Path of Exile this time of year, but I'm not. I'm playing this, and I'm just like, oof. I think as well, on the other side of the coin, I'm looking forward to see what Overwatch does in response, because it can't just sit there and just see things change, because this doesn't feel to me like it's just it's the new latest game, everyone's playing it, because this is a month after the game came out. The game's now got a bigger audience. The game is just keeps going. It's almost like, come on, Overwatch, do something. You're being bashed. You're taking right, left hooks over and over again, and you're not really reacting. You're not really doing anything to say, no, we're here. We're going to sort this mess out. Anyway, I'll leave the video at that, guys. Thank you for listening or watching. And remember, if you did enjoy the content, then do like the content. And I'll catch you lovely lot on the next one. See you soon.